Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and welcome back to another episode of Mario's Minute. For those who do not know, this is the second podcast I do. My main podcast, Mod Chat, is a little more structured, a little more edited and such, and there's some more show and tell going on, in which I usually come to you all with different things that I find interesting in the world of video game modding, video game console modding, all that stuff. Not necessarily a news show, but if you want to use it as your source of news, feel free to, as long as you are entertained. However, this is not that. This is my second podcast, Mario's Minute, where I come on here once a month and I talk about pretty much wherever the hell I want to. Sometimes I have a guest on here, sometimes I don't, and either way, it is available in two different forms. First of all, it is available in a video visual form here in the Mr. Mario 2011 YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey channels. There's also some discussion that happens in the comments as well too, so that's usually where the fun stuff is and kind of where the community grows, I guess you can say, with this. However, if you want to take this around and listen to it wherever the hell you want to, like an actual podcast in audio only form, simply look up Mario's Minute on your favorite podcasting app, host, provider, or platform, and you should hopefully be able to find it. I know it's not available on all of them, but it is available on most of them. Either way, like I said, this is a show I do once a month where sometimes I have a guest on, sometimes I don't. And the last few episodes, I've been slacking on the guest front a little bit. And my apologies, that is completely on me there as the show organizer and such. So it's been a little bit lonely kind of just doing the solo episodes a little back to back. However, this time around, if you have checked out the title, this is going to be a guest-based episode. So to my guest, as I always ask, who the hell are you?
Oh, hi everyone. I'm Liam. I'm from the channel Slot1Gamer, and I'm actually in the process of rebranding it to Liam's Electronics Lab. And I've been making YouTube videos of tutorials on like electronics projects and console modding for, I guess like 10 years now, maybe. And yeah, just sort of in that realm of things. I like fixing things, so yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, Liam or Slot1Gamer, I think either one works, right? Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, of course. It's been a blast. I've so far, we've been talking a little bit beforehand, but I will say as well, too, I'll spring this on you. I've actually, I don't know how long it's been. I have actually followed your channel for several years, and I've had you as like a guest I've wanted to get on for a few years now, at least. So when I found out you were following, and then when you were like more active in the community and all that, I was, admittedly, there was like a little bit of starstruckness there, because I was like, oh my God, no, I've been like following this dude. Like I've seen his stuff for years. This guy's awesome. So I was happy to be able to talk to you here.
I feel honored.
But how's it?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, yeah, I've been following you for a long time too. Like, yeah.
It's
crazy.
Actually, I don't know the history with this, but I guess how did you become acquainted? Because I know with you at least, I think it was somewhere in the mix of. I feel like I found your content back when Assembler Games, rest in peace, but back when Assembler Games was a thing, maybe in like 2016 or earlier. And I'm pretty sure it was kind of either a cross between Assembler Games and like YouTube with original Xbox modding, where I was getting into hard mods for the first time. I'd only done soft mods on the original Xbox before, didn't really know what I was doing with it. Like I was trying to do a custom BIOS flash on like the TSOT flash itself, but I was still trying to treat everything like a soft mod, which isn't going to be the most accurate way of doing things. And then I was seeing your videos where I was like, wow, these are like really cleanly done and really well done here. Within like a few minutes, I get the exact information I need and it covers this here and I'm able to move past this. So I'm pretty sure around 2016 is when I found you then.
Yeah, I think for me, it's about the same time too. Like, yeah, I think we just sort of overlapped because we're in the same sort of sphere at the time. Just overlapping with each other's sort of content. Yeah, and Assembly Games. I miss that place so much.
Me too. Yeah, it was it was horribly handled, horribly managed, but it was a magical time at one point.
Yeah, now the internet's sort of gone a bit dark now with stuff being hidden on Discord and stuff, but maybe forums will make a comeback and we'll go back to the good old days.
I hope so. I know at one point everything kind of coexisted, but it's kind of like forums got eaten up by Reddit, which I'm like, okay, this is not the best, but as long as we can have both, it's fine. And then Reddit's had its own issues, and because you'll have, subreddits get taken down, users get taken down, users will go purge all their posts and stuff.
Yeah.
And then what was the issue? The big thing that I've never disagreed with, which is just PSA, can we not just, whenever we have tutorials, things to look up, information that needs to be archived, that is not what Discord is for. Discord is it's a place where you can chat, and it's a community area where you can chat. It's not meant to be a repository. It's not meant to be a wiki. It's not meant to replace any of that stuff. But what makes it worse is that whenever you're looking into technical issues, there's people that say, oh, this file's on my Discord. You can join my Discord here. You can download it here. And it's like, one, I don't want to join another server just to get one thing. And two, all that stuff, like if people say, oh, I joined this Discord and I got help, it doesn't really help that much on the greater internet, because none of that gets archived, none of that gets indexed and such, and then it can all go poof as well too. Like if I want to, I can shut down my server, which has, I feel like, a lot of good information with like history of people getting technical assistance and stuff there, but we can shut that down in 10 seconds.
Yeah, definitely. Like, especially with like where all the information is hosted privately, and Discord have, I believe, a policy against scraping it as well. So you can't even like scrape a Discord and then post it to the net, to the open internet and stuff like that. From what I've read, because I've been looking into it, because like it really is killing the internet. Like I remember, it's kind of funny. I remember on Assembler Games, someone from Discord. This is when it was in alpha or beta or something.
Yeah,
they made a post like, oh, we're making this new app. It's like a forum, but sort of like more like a chat sort of thing. You can join if you want. It's currently closed entry or whatever.
Yeah.
So I joined up. I was thinking at the time, I was like, man, this isn't going to take off. This is just going to nosedive. It's going to be, just not go anywhere. But now it's now it's crushed all my hopes and dreams. Like, don't get me wrong. I really like Discord. I kind of spend probably too much time on there now because I got so much free time. But it's kind of like this black hole of information, and that's kind of scary in a way. Yeah. Especially when, like, from my background being in repair and stuff, like, if you're working on something that's like 10 years old, there's no one currently posting anything about that weird, obscure device. It might be on some random closed forum or random Discord somewhere, but how are you ever going to find that? It's not indexed or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think so. Even the way I found Discord, so I actually just checked your profile. Yours is slightly older than mine, so it was like early 2016 for the both of us. But I remember at the time, it was just friends and I were trying to get off of Skype. So we had used Skype.
Oh, yeah.
And I think even we tried other things to talk, like to play games and talk. Like we probably tried like Google Hangouts. We did Curse. I think the thing we did before this was Curse Voice, which worked pretty well. Then we end up, I think I was the one who found Discord, and I heard about it because the big deal at the time was, since you all connect through a server, it's not peer-to-peer connectivity, your IP is not going to get leaked or anything. So I was like, okay, cool. And this is like, it wasn't nearly as like robust as it was now. So I just like quickly made an account, quickly made a server, had some friends join in, and had to manually do everything. And we were like, okay, I think there's something to this. And I remember at the time, I actually, so I had the opposite thought of you. I was like, this is cool. I actually like this. It works well. It's very gamer centric, but this is a really good chatting platform. I like this. I just didn't think it was going to go beyond that. Like, I thought it would just stay a chat platform. But when I was horrified when people started using it as their own CDN, and they're starting to like link files directly from their Discord, like from the Discord CDN onto forums and stuff. And I'm like, no, this is not how you do things.
Yeah, this is bad. This is bad. What do you call it? Data preservation.
It was so bad. Yeah. So I've had one of those. I ranted about it months ago. But I have one of those policies where when I cover something, if it is exclusively or if it's hidden in a Discord, I'm not going to cover it. Like, and I'm not even picky. Like, give me a Reddit post that has an explanation and some screenshots and like a link to the download that I need that is to like a file locker, like Mega or something, and that's fine. I can reference that, but I never want to cover anything where I say you have to join this Discord server to get it.
Yeah, I'm thinking now. I don't think I've ever had to link to anything like that. I usually mirror stuff as well, just because stuff does go down. Like imagine if you're like back in the day, you're like, oh yeah, to get this BIOS file for your Xbox or whatever, just load up Xbins, use auto Xbins, get like 1 million viruses or whatever on some dodgy download, sort of a thing, or join my TeamSpeak channel or whatever. You know, it's just like I'll tell you in person, but you can't access it directly. And like when you're trying to solve a problem or find information about something, you don't want to jump through all these hoops. It makes it difficult. Like, yeah, that's sort of the premise of why with my tutorials they're a bit different, I guess, to yours in a way, where yours are really in depth. They go longer. I'm always in a rush, so I like to squeeze as much information to whatever I'm trying to do as possible. And like, I don't want to jump into a Discord to find information. I just want it there because I'm doing something, kind of a thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. And then I know I've been on the opposite side where it's like I didn't originally think my videos are going to be so long, but they've kind of gotten like long and verbose because I was kind of like, I kind of want to put everything here. So if you start this 30-minute video, you should have pretty much all the information you need by the end of it, and you should be able to hopefully successfully get through whatever this operation is going to be. Because when I was kind of rushing before, I just noticed what was happening was a lot of stuff that I kind of glazed over real quick, or I was just like kind of brushing up on or assuming people knew. I would have to answer the same questions about little things over and over and over again.
Yeah, that can happen. That's why the frequency of my tutorials are a lot less than yours, I guess, is I've been trying really hard to try and squeeze as much in as possible. Sometimes stuff does get missed.
Yeah.
Like people will be like, oh, I've got this weird edge case or something.
Yes.
But I think there's room for both, really. There's two kinds of people that watch tutorials, I think.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think it benefits everyone both ways.
Absolutely.
They're both good.
Yeah, there was I think one edge case, because you're mentioning, like I'm thinking of right now, was there was one person who they were following along with one of my PS3 custom firmware tutorials. And it got to the point, funny enough, on that tech help channel on my Discord, we were helping them out because it was such a fringe case. And we were all completely lost because we're like, dude, you have video, like this person, he was given detail, like they were well spoken, like they were following every single thing properly. And the thing that ended up happening, they weren't successful. And then because I was trying to figure every single thing. At one point I just said, can you use another computer? And they used another computer and it all worked out properly. And the issue that was happening was there was something on their first computer. I said, you got to get this thing, like take this to the hospital, but no, just like run Malwarebytes on it or something, because there was something on the computer where even though they were checking and verifying everything, something was wrong with that computer where no matter what USB drive they tried, by the time they would go and eject and remove the USB drive, something on the computer was maliciously like corrupting the update file that was required, and then it wouldn't be able to install. Yeah. So at that point I was like, we've tried multiple drives, we've done the verification, we've done multiple browsers, you've done the patching process so many times, you've done all this, like it is your computer, but there's some kind of malware or something else you have there. So this is completely separate, but it's like a little fringe case like that. It's like, oh, this dude couldn't modify his PS3 properly because his computer was infected with something and he didn't know.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing. Like there's so many variations on, like, especially with like computer stuff, there's so many variations of what can happen. Like my background is working with like board repair and like computer repair and stuff, and sometimes you get in these weird machines that they seem normal at first, and then you delve into them and they have the weirdest problems. They'll be like, oh, if I move the mouse, if I put my finger on the trackpad here, the sound stops working, or something crazy like that. And then you spend like hours digging into it and you're like, oh, it's a small problem, but like, yeah, you would never guess it from the get go of it. It's something completely unrelated usually.
Right. It's
Yeah.
that's actually one thing where like Liam here ended up helping me out of a pinch recently where and I applaud you for like your troubleshooting and such on this, because there's been so many times like you've been able to, not just with me, but I've seen you help other people, and it's like you kind of really like delve in and you know a whole lot about almost everything. It seems not like you're a know-it-all, I'm saying, but it's just like I'll like look at your knowledge and what you're typing out, it's like holy crap, this guy knows a lot. But I was running into a issue with my desktop here where essentially, and it kind of coincided with changing like some BIOS settings and such, because like in short, for any of the uninitiated, like my all-in-one cooler just wasn't working as well, and and I think it was just time for it to go, so I ended up swapping out the cooler. I tried some other things, but then I was running into a sound issue where any sound was just like really like garbled and like crackly and kind of staticky. And of course I'm running Windows 11. The first thing I think of is okay, driver issue. But it's like eliminated the driver issue completely, tried to bypass it by using different drivers, trying to go through safe mode, of course. It even got to the point, I said, if it's something wrong with the motherboard, let's use a USB DAC. So I'm doing USB on it, issues still there. Found out as well too from a video I had to redo some of the audio on, it was impacting my microphone as well too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was everything. And I'd gotten some recommendations. One of them was, hey, try another OS. So I fired up a live Linux install, perfectly fine. So I said, okay, cool, it must be something within Windows. I didn't wipe my machine because I was like, well, first of all, I don't really want to set everything back up from zero. But secondly, I've seen other people with this issue, and many of them disturbingly said that they have wiped their computers and they still had the same thing. So when I'd kind of posed it to my community, like, you ended up having a really big post about like some recommendations and such. And one of them was talking about BIOS settings, where you were saying it could have been something in there. And I'm not sure what it was, but I went into my BIOS, and when tweaking a little bit, I just decided to reset default settings, and that resolved the issue. And it's just like, holy crap, that actually worked. But nobody really thinks, like, if you run into an issue like that, I can assure you, I don't think I ever would have thought of BIOS settings for that.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it's something to do with a buffer or something for the audio driver or some part of that, and
that's what you're telling me.
It's basically like, yeah, I think it's like the CPU state is too low or something. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, it's something like that from memory. Yeah. Basically, the CPU's like it. There's not enough time for the information to get properly buffered and processed and everything, and it goes all choppy. Because I had that same issue with I think it was VMware or something, was doing the exact same thing. And I ended up doing like a real cowboy fix on it by running another VM just to keep like a baseline. Sort of, just use a little bit more, have it keep the audio device alive so it would stop doing that. But yeah. I'm glad it worked for you, resetting the BIOS.
Yes, I'm really glad it worked as well too. So big thank you for that, because that was it's one of those things I would say a little bit of a lifesaver right there, because I was like, oh, this is impeding not just workflow, it's impeding everything.
Yeah, and like with humans, just in general, like you can deal with bad images, like a fuzzy video or something, but as soon as sound stops working properly, it's really jarring. That's why, like, I guess people when they talk about video production and stuff, is like sound is probably the most important part of it. The visuals come second, because like you can't stand to listen to choppy audio.
When it comes to video, I know one thing that, tons of people on YouTube have said have been like, having good audio. It's not required, but having it at least be listenable is important, because so many people will click off a video immediately if they just hear like, a blown out microphone and how the quality is like really low, like unlistenable on some. And it's like, if it's a meme, if it's a joke, or if it's just like an old video, like I get it. Like it's kind of nice from an ironic or post-ironic view, but there's there's people I'm one of those people. I will get like my girlfriend and I will watch, YouTube videos and such. And there was one video she was showing me, and I'm not going to say the YouTuber, but one person where it's just he was trying to do too much, and he just didn't really have the experience or the skill set to do what he was trying to do, but I could see his vision. But one of the big issues was the audio, and I got mad, not because of that, but because I looked and I saw like what his production value was and how big his channel was, and I was like, no, at this point, if this channel is this big, he should have had this sorted out. He's not like a 5,000 subscriber channel.
Especially now with how easy the barrier to entry with like decent audio is. Like you can like the microphone I'm using is just a Rode something,
but it sounds lovely.
Yeah. But like back in the day, like early YouTube days, that was difficult. You'd always have that. You'd have that hiss in the background, which is kind of nostalgic in a way, but it's also really annoying. But yeah, like clipping and stuff where it's really sharp in your ears. I hate that. And getting the levels right is also another thing that I've been trying really hard to keep consistent, because like I'll be watching YouTube or something on my TV or whatever, and one video will be really quiet, the next one will be super loud, and then the ads are like somewhere in between, sometimes way too loud, and it's just a really jarring experience.
Yeah, I've been having that issue with films for the longest time, because film mixing has just not been great. And the thing is, like, there's been really good videos that have shown and demonstrated what the issue is, where it's essentially, you have these films that are designed to be played in cinemas, and then they get shoved, months later onto streaming services, and the bit rate is completely compressed, and then you lose detail there. But then the thing is, you're getting that same like cinematic mastering, so to speak, and how the audio should be. You're getting it pushed out like two inky dinky speakers that are really small, because they're on like a super like ultra razor thin OLED television. But I get that from the modern sense, but like even I noticed this when I was younger. Like this has been an issue I've been noticing with sound mixing in films for like the last 20 years. Because I remember renting like the first film I remember this being bad was, I remember White Noise, and I think that came out in like 2004. I remember renting the DVD from Blockbuster, and I even ran it by friends. I was like, yeah, no, the sound was really weird, because like the voices would be super quiet and then the music would be super loud, so I had to keep turning my TV up and down the whole time.
Yeah. So I'm a bit of a home theater nerd with that sort of stuff.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm an authority on any of it or anything, but yeah, modern movies, because microphones have gotten so good, actors don't have to enunciate, or they don't have to put much energy into what they're saying, so they can talk quieter, like a lot of mumbling and stuff. And then you combine that with like the dynamic range of the movie, because they're meant to be watched at like what's it called, reference level or something, really loud, like super loud. If you go to the cinema, you notice how loud it is.
Yes, yeah, where you feel that.
Yeah, so there's fixes for it. Like you can compress the range, but then you sort of lose a bit in the middle there. So like it doesn't sound as dramatic. It's kind of just all noise really then.
Yep.
And it is really difficult. One thing I've noticed about, I don't think I mentioned it, but I live in Japan at the moment. And what's really interesting here is, even though there's way more people, there's a bigger market, TVs here are so expensive. They're like 3 times the price they are in Australia. Okay. And the biggest selling point that they all have is the sound quality. Like they'll put that above everything else. Like, I guess because, I don't know, older people, there's more older people here maybe, I don't know. But that's the biggest thing that most models of TV here have, is it's like, this has got better speakers, you can actually hear what you're watching and stuff. Sometimes you don't even need any external speakers with like a flat thin TV. It's really interesting.
I did not know about that at all, so like thank you for letting me know. The only thing I really knew about that could make sense in that regard is I don't think it's like as booming as it was like 20-30 years ago, but like music shops are still a thing. They're like held in high regard, aren't they?
Yeah, like what's that company? Tower Records or something? They've still
Yeah,
got stores here.
that's
I
amazing.
think they're closed down in the US, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they've been closed for
Or
a
something.
while.
Yeah. Here, like it's like a 4 minute train ride to the nearest one where I am. So like,
That's epic.
it's yeah. I don't buy physical music that much anymore. Like there's some bands and stuff that my wife likes that she wants to buy the CDs and stuff for, but I don't really. I just use Spotify because I'm lazy.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've unfortunately kind of gotten to that point as well too. I will say I do buy vinyl and CD. I don't acknowledge the tape renaissance. I don't want it to be a thing. It's not a thing. I'm not going to allow it to be a thing, so I'm not going to support it. But dude,
Yeah.
I don't mess with VHS tapes. I don't mess with cassette tapes. But no, when it comes to CDs and vinyl, I will purchase those sparingly though, but it's really from artists that I truly love and I want to support directly, and it's for music that I really like. I truly love that, and I want to physically keep that. But there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
like even like Porter Robinson, for example, his new album came out. I really enjoy it. Is it enough for me to enjoy it to buy a physical copy? No. But I'm still a fan of him. I'm still a fan of the album. I enjoy it. But like Nothing Nowhere, for example, he's one of those people. If he drops a physical, I get 2 copies of it.
Yeah. It's kind of like that thing. It's more like it's not just for the music. It's more like practical merch. Like
Sure.
it's merch in a way. Like
It is.
you get more than one enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
Like I'm like that with movies. Like I'll just stream everything or like or maybe rent, because you can still rent Blu-rays and stuff here.
Yeah, that's you can't really do that much now. Like here, especially like
Yeah.
over in the US, like Redbox just went out of business.
Oh yeah, heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's like maybe 5 movies or less than 10 movies that I'd actually buy, like keep on Blu-ray, and they're just movies that I enjoy watching because I'm one of those people that I can't watch a movie multiple times if I remember most of it. I'm in it for the adventure. And
Sure.
yeah, some movies I do enjoy watching them over and over again. But like if I know what's going to happen next pretty clearly, like if I watched it like 3 months ago, then I won't enjoy watching it. But if it's a movie that I haven't watched in like 10 years, like I don't remember all of this. This is great. That's probably the benefit of getting older, is you forget things easier.
That is true. Yeah, it's nice when you do that with games as well too. I will say a little. I
Oh
only
yeah,
have
definitely. Yeah.
I only have joke about this, but a little bit of a depression hack is like, oh, if you're like experiencing something when you're depressed, like media or something, like when you're depressed, your long term memory isn't going to work as well, so you might not remember that after. And like the example I use is Max Payne 3, where like when that first came out, I played a lot of it, but I remember the multiplayer fondly, but I only remember the first level of the campaign and the end and like maybe one or two other highlights. And that's not to say it's a forgettable game. It's just I end up forgetting it because the state, I was in and I was experiencing at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah.
it was 2 years ago. Funny enough, when I was coming out of, I don't want to sound like king of depression or something, but when I was coming out of another pretty bad funk, and it was just a lot of stuff going on in my life. But when I was coming out of that, I wanted to play the Max Payne games, so they kind of helped me recover. And I played through Max Payne 3, and I'll tell you, not only that game held up, but I had the joy of getting to experience it again for the first time because I forgot about 95% of the details. And that game is absolutely shocking and twisted in so many ways. So I was just like screaming from just absolute shock when I was playing through it. And it was a joy to kind of experience it for the first time, a second time.
I love that feeling when you get a game that's it's fun. Like not just fun because you're spending time on it. Fun that it's like you're kind of like sucked into the universe of it. And you're like, oh wow, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah.
And then you're kind of sad when it's over.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoyed the Dishonored series and like Metro and stuff like that. Those sort of like, not really. They're not exactly open world. I'd say they're more like choose your own adventure sort of thing. You can do things all different ways.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went back and replayed Dishonored. I played the first game and then I ended up buying the second game. I hadn't played it yet, so I like to redo the series, especially with movies and stuff as well. So I restarted Dishonored from the start, and I really enjoyed it the first time round. But a little bit later I'll get onto this, but like I kind of broke the game a little bit.
Nice job.
But I replayed. Yeah, I replayed it. I thought, I thought I knew exactly what happens in the game, but like it's one of those games you can choose the storyline and stuff. And yeah, I really enjoyed going back to it because like at the time when I was playing it, yeah, like, you know, you're in like a bad place, I guess.
Yeah.
And you don't remember everything. And yeah, it was such an adventure. And I went back and went and played the second one after that, and like it was the best couple of weeks ever of just like gaming, because I don't usually have that much time anymore to game as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I was mentioning with where the game got broken, because I originally played it on Xbox 360, and there's this bug in the game where on one of the last levels, if you throw one of the soldiers, have you played the game?
I've only
Dishonored?
played like the first level. That is it.
Know how you can hide bodies in the game if you like off someone?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was this one glitch in the game where if you throw, I found it by accident. If you throw one of the bodies over the ledge on this level, you end up breaking into what's it called? Like where the camera can free move. Like you can.
Is it kind of like a no clip type thing, or is it just like a floating camera?
I think it's no clip.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go through the walls and everything.
Okay, so that's where you can just go through all the collision.
Yeah. So like ended up like flying around. I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is weird. And I didn't realize that I think this is like the last level of the game, or like very close to the end. So I'm like flying around, and then I accidentally fly to the last bit where you're meant to like be standing on some big ledge or something, and like, oh, oops, I just skipped the whole level.
you did a Halo 2 on that thing.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've realized I have an accidental habit for breaking games when I am tired. Girlfriend and I will be playing something together, or like I'm playing and she's watching. And there's been too many times, if it's going on too late, I start to break the game. And it can even be simple stuff like Donut County, for example. Like, have you ever played that?
No, I haven't played it, no.
Charming little game where, in short, people order donuts, but when they order donuts through this app, it is a hole in the ground, and then kind of like Katamari, you're picking up small stuff like pebbles and ants and all that, and then literally you start sucking up like houses and cars and planes. So it's really charming. It's funny. It's hilarious. I love it. And I've played through it so many times, but there was one time we played through it together, and it was like at the beginning of one of the levels, there was just this lizard would not go through the hole, and it was like perfectly spinning like it was going to go down there, but it would not go through. And I tried for like 5 minutes to get this one to go through, and I said, okay, there's something going on. There's something that's broken. So I restarted the level, and I think I even did it a second time. And then I had to restart it again, and then it was able to continue on just fine. But I've just noticed when I'm like kind of tired and not in the best space there, not in like a bad way, it's just like, oh, I'm a little too tired to be playing this, I start to accidentally break games.
Yeah. It's kind of like a cathartic in a way, to just like really see what you can do with it. I have like fond memories of playing Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, and like Halo 2 and stuff, and just seeing where you can get the character to go.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
Okay.
It's I guess cathartic's the right. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but like it's kind of like therapeutic in a way. Like
there's a sense of exploration that I really like. I enjoy that if I'm doing it on purpose, or if I'm just like really excited and it's happening there. I guess I'll say the times I've broken games recently, I'm just like, oh, I kind of want to just play the game. I didn't want to run into a glitch. I kind of just want this to work as expected.
That's the worst time. Or like you break the game in a way that you can't progress.
Yep.
Yeah, that happens a lot. My wife and I were a while ago. We're playing. There's like a multiplayer mod for Skyrim.
Yes.
And we're on this one section where you have to. I think they're like a bunch of vampires or something. I don't know Skyrim too well. And you finish the quest, but what happened is they just kept on spawning. And you reload the game, you do the same thing again, and they just keep on respawning. Like, you can't get past that section, and they just keep on respawning and, like, killing you and stuff, and it's like it really ruined the game. Not fun.
That does not sound fun. No, and the problem is like Skyrim has just those Bethesda games. Where Skyrim, I remember, was one of those games where it had like just enough jank where it's like, okay, I mean, it's janky, but it's still playable, and we're really excited to play this game. So it was kind of one of those titles, but I think that the public, I feel like I've never played it to this day, but I think the public kind of had enough of it when Fallout 76 came out, and not only it was just painfully unfinished, but it's like, okay, the Bethesda jank is no longer cute. It's now gone online. It's now in multiplayer mode.
They need an intervention.
Yeah, they do. From what I know, it seems to be working pretty well now. I'm not sure about the intervention, but I'm more talking about like Fallout 76 here.
I think their intervention was money.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, my wife and I, we've been playing through Fallout a bit too, Fallout 4, sorry, and yeah, like you'll get to a point where like something just doesn't work right, like a trigger doesn't occur to finish a quest or whatever, and it's just super frustrating. And then you have to restart from your last save, and like you realize, oh, I haven't saved for an hour. And it's just like it really takes you out of the moment.
Yeah. Yep, I get that. And that's the thing too. It's like you're really into it, and then you have to restart or something else has to happen. It's like I just wanted to enjoy this game and play it.
When I was getting ready to move over here, I had to get rid of a lot of my games, right? Because I had like a big physical collection.
Sure.
And I was going through them, and I came across Morrowind on the Xbox.
Ooh,
and it came with this piece of paper in it. It comes with this piece of paper, and it's like, if the game freezes or does something weird, you have to do a button combination, and it like resets the game.
Okay.
Sort of a thing. It's like I've never seen that in like a physical copy of a game, or like an official copy of a game, where it's like, we know the game's broken. This is how you fix it. Do it yourself.
I can't even remember the game name, but it was I believe Angry Video Game Nerd covered it, and I think it was something on the space toilet, and by that I mean like the Atari Jaguar CD. I don't remember which game it was, but there is one game, I believe it was on the system. It was either that or it was the Amiga CD32. It was one of those two CD-based systems. But this game, it would quite literally, if you turned on the system, then put in the disc, and then played it, it would freeze at the very beginning. And there was a piece of paper in there that told you how to boot it up. And essentially because of like the limitations of the specs for the system back then, it quite literally said you have to keep the system off, then put the CD in, close the tray, then turn the system on with the CD inserted, so that way you don't boot into the BIOS, you boot directly into the game. And at that point, you'll have enough free resources that the game can actually load properly.
I came across something the other day. It was I can't remember which channel was talking about it, but Morrowind on the Xbox as well can like secretly reboot the console or something.
Yes,
something about that.
I know. MVG did a whole video like going into like the actual call and all that it made. But yes, that was one of those little secrets that I think like Todd Howard, like years later, he ended up talking about on a podcast.
That I find that stuff so fascinating. Like the little hacks you have to do, but. Yep. Nowadays, because resources are cheap, well, customer resources are cheap, storage and processing power and stuff, they can get real lazy with things. Like the size of the Fallout update, there was two big updates for Fallout 4 on PC. Okay. One of them is like 20 gigabytes or something, and it does nothing.
Okay.
It's meant to improve graphics or something like that. Improve, like, it's not the newest one that goes with the TV show where they gave all the new stuff. It's the one before that where it's just a next gen update or something, and it literally changed nothing in the game.
I think there's a little bit of that there. It's not only that it didn't change anything, didn't it end up like breaking a lot of the code on it for like the people were used to with mods and stuff, so it pretty much like kind of killed mod support overnight. It
nuked, pardon the pun, the mod support for the game or something, and it didn't even fix the biggest bug in the game, which in my opinion is the biggest bug. So if you have a 30 series NVIDIA GPU, if you have weapon debris turned on or something, like just a small little superfluous kind of like makes it look cool, setting in the settings, the game will crash within like 30 seconds.
That's
Or
horrible.
within a minute. It just crashes randomly. When I first, like, because I repurchased the game on Steam and installed it and everything, I was going through it and I got through the first sort of bit where you do all the character creation and stuff and you're running to the vault and the game crashed. I load it again, the game crashes. So then I'd spend like an hour or two just looking at why it's doing it, and it's just one small setting. If you have it turned on with newer GPUs or whatever, or maybe just my specific one, the game will just crash for no reason.
Yeah.
Just straight back to desktop. No error or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just like, they have all this money. They can't fix it.
Yeah, but instead they kind of, to my understanding, that 20 gigabyte update, it was almost like a remastered patch, so to speak. But again, it sounds like with what you're saying. And the funny thing is, it's been years since I played it, but I have Fallout 4 on PC. That was my primary way of playing it. I haven't played it, funny enough, since maybe 2016, something like that. So it's been quite a while.
I originally bought it on Xbox One on launch day.
Okay.
Because I was in the hype of the trailer and everything, and then I played it for a while and got kind of bored of it.
I was gonna say, I'll be honest, I bought it on PC right off the rip because I played several Bethesda games on console for the 7th generation, and after Skyrim kept crashing on me with one of the DLCs, I was like, that's it, I'm not doing a Bethesda game as on console as my main playthrough. I'm just gonna do it on PC now.
Yeah, but in a way, sometimes PC's worse, which is sad.
It can be. You're not wrong.
Yeah, like like this bug I'm talking about, I think it's still there. I just didn't change the setting back, but I'm pretty sure it's still there on the 3070. I don't know if it works, if it's there on the other 30 series cards, but on mine definitely it doesn't work. But it's just.
That's how it goes sometimes. Yeah, I think the closest I've gotten has been Skyrim, funny enough. I got it. At one point I was playing it a bit on PS4 just because it was like, well, I was just messing around with the playthrough. So not like a main playthrough. And then I also picked it up on Switch, funny enough, and I played a little bit there. Again, not a main one, but I was like, the game's been out long enough. I'm going to cautiously trust. I'm going to be like, this is fine. If I just don't want to take it too seriously, I think it should be okay.
Yeah.
I was going to run this by you here. There was because this is in more current things right now. But the Xbox 360 storefront at the time of recording now has officially closed. I guess I was wanting to know your thoughts on it.
So with the 360, because of where I grew up was super remote. Like we didn't even have a phone most of the time.
Oh wow, okay.
So I didn't really get much access to like the heyday of Xbox 360 online, like back at like Blade Stash and all that sort of stuff, like a early 360.
Sure.
I didn't really get into it till I moved into the city in like 2012. But it's kind of sad when like a marketplace like that goes down, because like you have all these memories, or I guess people do have all those memories of like the games and stuff they played on, the people they interacted with, and from like a preservation standpoint as well, they're all digital games. So like, are they going to be backed up somewhere? Microsoft, they're making them cheap, which is a good thing, from what I understand. But there's no way forward for other people to play them in the future, unless you pirate them, I guess, or you have a console that's loaded up with all the games. But like, how rare is that going to be?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's been the big issue with it, where it's like, for anybody who might be confused, because we're recording this, well, depending on where we're at, I'm recording it on the 29th, Liam's recording this on the 30th, but when we're going through this here, so I had noticed, it was pretty much we as in everybody, like the world, got a notice over a year ago, I want to say, that on July 29th, that was going to be the last day the digital storefront for the 360 would be up, that online services would continue to work. So you can buy a 360 right now, set up a brand new account, plug it into the internet, get onto Xbox Live, have gold enabled on there as well too, pop in a disc game, and you could play it online if you can find people on that game. But when it comes to buying anything digital, as long as it's on your account and you can still access it, you can theoretically always re-download it. This is something I've kind of ranted about before because in theory, that's supposed to be how it works. But a lot of times, especially on those older storefronts, what should happen and what does actually happen are going to be two different things. So
yeah,
I've gone through, I've tried to re-download some of my history. Some of my history is stuff that I have licenses for. I simply cannot re-download. It just won't let me on the system. Any stuff that's backwards compatible on Xbox One and Xbox Series, you can still purchase on those platforms, but you can't do any purchases on the 360 anymore. So that's indeed a lot of really that digital history has been gone. And I know you're mentioning there were discounts on many games. It was up to the publishers as well too. So there were some publishers that unannounced, they decided to discount their games last minute. Many publishers as well too, they were discounting their games. They were putting them in different waves, but then there were a lot of people who they didn't do any discounts, and some people were complaining about that, especially for games where there's still a multiplayer component and DLC is not a hard requirement, but it's mostly recommended to have the DLC.
So, and sometimes the DLC fixes issues too.
That is true. Yeah.
But the stressful part of all that is with digital storefronts is like, they can say they're going to honor it, but who's going to maintain it? So you might run into the issue where like you have certain security certificates expire and no one renews them, so no one can connect to the server, or like it just gets forgotten. Things like that. And like that's when you run into like the big issue of piracy, or just like preservation in general. Third-party preservation is like, there really should be like stipulation in the law where that says because this isn't being maintained, it's abandonware or something, it becomes pseudo public domain, I guess. Like people can back it up for their own uses and things, but copyright law is very complicated all around the world, so I don't think that's ever going to happen.
And even just, I say not just for backup use, but even just having it more be publicly available, where I'm one of those people when it comes to, I guess, the morals of piracy. I believe, personal opinion here, mind you, but it's like, hey, if it's a piece of content that you cannot buy at all, like you cannot get a hold of that, you want to put actual money down and you can't get a hold of it at all, I morally don't see an issue with pirating that. I know with the 360 though, I'm glad you kind of brought up the technical standard of it, where you're saying, certain certificates might not be renewed or what have you. The problem is a lot of people, when they were rushing to purchase their last games and such and their last content, they were introduced to how rough the Xbox 360 storefront has been for several years. Yeah. It is slow. There's tons of errors. There's tons of timeouts. There's things that just do not work. Even on the multiplayer side. I know at one point, it was about a year or so ago, the 360 Call of Duty games ended up getting a huge resurgence in popularity, because apparently multiplayer networking on them was super broken for years. And then something happened. They ended up getting fixed. I think it was right around the time the Activision buyout was happening, but the multiplayer services on Xbox Live for the 360 ended up getting fixed. And all of a sudden, multiplayer matchmaking was working properly again. So people do want to use this stuff, but if it's not properly maintained, then they get frustrated, they move off of it, which is understandable. I had said the same thing where I was just saying a few minutes ago, like when I went into my download history on my 360, there's several times it's painful to go through, or I cannot download things that I do have the license for, or the downloads aren't working properly. And even other little things like just doing the YouTube type thing. I have videos where I show like how to update a 360, how to update the dashboard and such. And at one point I think it was this year, there was a lot of people who were messaging and saying, because I linked to the like official like xbox.com page about downloading the system update and the link for it and such, and the download link just went down, and it was not working for several weeks at minimum. And I did check it today, funny enough, and it is working. So now you can download the official system update for the 360 from xbox.com, but for several weeks this year that was down. and I don't know what was wrong with it. I don't know who fixed it, who did what, but those things will just happen on this old platform.
It was probably like a Friday or something, and someone was just going through all their tickets to fix things, and they're like, "All right," and they go hit the server with a broom or something, makes it work again. Like that's what I find fascinating about like with like you were saying with the Call of Duty servers and stuff is like. That's a really weird thing to just start working again. Like, did it just magically start working on its own again? Or like, was there a blackout and the server restarted and it just in some dusty corner somewhere? Or like, did they actively go out and fix it?
I don't know how it broke, but I think there was some kind of intervention to get it fixed. If it wasn't like actual man hours putting in, it was like at minimum, hey, let's restart the services on this server. They're bringing up a lot of errors.
Or like just a massive mistake where they accidentally lost power or something and it just did the old reboot.
Oh, it could have been that as well too.
Yeah, that kind of stuff it's funny and fascinating at the same time. It's like that when you're looking at infrastructure level stuff, it's just like, wow, this is just a whole other world.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny when there's been times I've described that to people where like we're like diagnosing like a Windows server issue, for example, and people might ask, okay, well, why was this issue happening? Why was this service hung up? And sometimes you can find like the clear answer in like a log file or something, but a lot of times too, it's kind of like, well, you haven't restarted the server in at least 120 days. And have you, when you go home, do you have a Windows PC? Have you used a Windows PC before? Sometimes when things just aren't working and then you restart it and it works, this is still Windows. It's Windows Server. It's not Windows 10 or 11, but sometimes that happens here too.
So like, yeah, it's I think Windows is kind of notorious for that. All versions of Windows is where like uptime can be a problem.
Yeah.
I used to have a Windows server at home. This is back before like Plex and stuff was really popular and that sort of thing. So I was running Windows Server, and yeah, like you'd run into weird issues if you left it on for like 6 months or a year or something non-stop. It would just start doing strange things. You restart it, it's all fixed. It's like, oh,
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I run into that as well too. So, but I think the thing I was really thinking of too with the 360 storefront going down was I've noticed there hasn't been a ton of complaints about it. There's been, sadness. There's been kind of excitement for people wanting to see what's on sale and getting things up. But I will say, and I'm not trying to, like brown nose a corporation or anything, but I think when it comes to a service shutdown, Microsoft handled this pretty well, because it was one of those situations where it's been a tiring thing with game preservation where entire services, entire storefronts will go down. Certain games just randomly get delisted and such. And I know Nintendo's been really notorious for that because in my opinion, they shut down these services much too early. Microsoft, they were held in a negative regard for a while because of how they shut down the original Xbox Live service, and they took, the storefront with that as well too. So you could tell they've actually been trying with the 360 in terms of the backwards compatibility, in terms of trying to get the information out there. And even so with this, when they announced that the storefront was going down, it was at least a year in advance. So it's like, hey, this isn't like Sony, where like when Sony was going to shut down the Vita, PSP, and PS3 storefronts, it was like, hey, we're shutting these down and it's going to be super quick. It was, I don't remember the timeline, but I remember it was something really quick. While I was with the 360, it's like, hey, we've had a year to work with this. And yeah, even though the storefront's not working super great, which the thing is too, I'm like, from a technical perspective, I'm sure it's really annoying and really painful keeping some of those services working, keeping all that going. And I have no doubt that they were really happy to no longer process payments on the 360 platform, because I'm sure that's been
definitely
a pain in terms of like technical issues and even security issues there. Because these are, I mean, it's old. Like when you think about it, it's even if some people come
2006, right? Yeah.
2000, late 2005 it came out, at least in the US.
Yeah.
That's when it first launched. But when you look at it, it's like, you know, we went from them really dropping the original Xbox as quick as like a hot rock or something to now with the Xbox 360, the digital storefront was online for almost 19 years. So I mean,
that's crazy.
In tech, that's unreal.
That's Windows XP level of support.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And that was when I don't, because 2005 is when it came out. Was Vista coming out, or was it out at that time? I don't quite remember.
I think it was just coming out, but it was like that was in the bad teething era for Vista, like when it was bad.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think Microsoft handled it very gracefully. I don't know how it is in Japan, because Xbox doesn't sell very well here at all. It's kind of a flop. But yeah, I think they handled it really well, and I think thinking like subjectively or like analytically of it, I think maybe they probably had like a top brass meeting about it, and they're like, all right, this is the backlash that Sony and Nintendo get every time. Let's not do that, because we're also selling some of these games on the Xbox Series store and stuff.
Yes.
We don't want that backlash. It's going to be really bad publicity. If we do it really gently, then people will forgive us.
Well, especially when you got to realize, I think it was 2020 or 2021, they already had a really big backlash with Xbox Live, because at the time they pretty much came out just randomly and said, hey, we are going to be increasing. They were pretty much wanting to push Game Pass Ultimate, and they said that Xbox Live Gold, it was going to get rebranded, and they were going to increase the price from $60 to $120 a year. And everyone, it seemed like almost everyone was against it, and I feel like it hurt them pretty negatively, because you were kind of saying the thing of like, oh yeah, it was a Friday and just closing out a ticket. No, this was the type of thing where it was late on a Friday evening, and they put out a press statement like apologizing and rolling back all of those proposed changes, and even giving the ability, they actually finally unlocked this. They said that now, like from here on out, starting this date, any free-to-play game or any game that is freely available on the platform, you do not need Xbox Live Gold in order to play it online.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I think, Microsoft is in this tricky situation where, like, it's pretty well known that they're now pushing product as a service, not as a product, sort of a thing. Like, especially with Windows, like I think probably everyone except for maybe your grandma or something knows that Microsoft's in the data mining business. They make money from everything else apart from the thing they're giving you.
Exactly.
So like, for them to just jack up the price on their service and stuff like that abruptly is kind of a slap in the face as well, when you know that they're also making money other ways from you. They just want more profit.
Yeah, I'd also said at the time too, I said that it was definitely a slap in the face, as you would say, because that was, I mean, 2020, 2021, where that was when a lot of people were still at home. They were still, doing the all digital, all remote thing. Yeah. And it's like, okay, so you have people where they are spending a lot more time at home. They're definitely connecting a lot more. They're playing a lot more online. There's also been people who they can't work. They lost their jobs. They are counting every single penny, what have you. And this was not like, because I was there when Xbox Live went from $50 to $60. But this was not that. This was not going from 60 to 70. This was doubling it from 60 to 120. And there was, I mean, this is anecdotal at least, but there were several people I know who said, hey, I don't care about Game Pass because I only play like 2 games on the Xbox, so I don't have it. But I could afford $60 a year. However, if Microsoft's going to jack this up all the way to $120, I'm actually just going to cancel my membership right now, because I only play 1 or 2 games online and it's not worth it for that. I also want to slide in here real quick. I did look it up to put in perspective as well too. The Xbox 360 came out in like late it came out in late 2005. Vista came out early 2007. So you got to realize that the storefront predated Windows Vista. This was during Windows XP era that the storefront went live, which is something, I'll be honest, even myself, I didn't really think about. So just again saying that it was active for almost 19 years is incredibly impressive and generous.
Yeah, especially when you think of how the web was in the XP era. Like, we're talking Internet Explorer, early Google, just janky as, like, just not a good experience. I think we're spoiled these days with like how unified everything is.
We absolutely are. Yeah. And you kind of see it too, even with, I'm sure you've kind of run into this with troubleshooting, and I know I don't want to like lift this uncredited or anything, but I think I was seeing from the WAN show, like Linus was talking about this, and it was essentially the issue of we've gotten to a point now with hardware and software, which is good, mind you, but hardware is pretty good these days. Software is so dialed in to the point that people don't really have to troubleshoot anymore. So the problem is that when you do have to troubleshoot, a lot of people just simply don't possess these skills to troubleshoot, or even the patience, where it's like, when we were younger, if our computer broke and we wanted to use it for something, we had to figure out how to fix it. These days, if for a lot of people, if their computer breaks, like if they turn on their computer and it says something like, could not boot OS, disk read A, or control alt delete to restart, they're stuck, and that's it.
Yeah. So this is something I've actually run into a lot, and like I'd bring it up like at work and stuff a lot too, with people with like training sales stuff and stuff, and like new technicians and things, is that we've got this weird situation where like the people that I guess millennial age, or maybe Gen X as well, like that period of time is pretty much the only group of people that grew up having to troubleshoot issues. They're fine. They can work things out on their own. But younger generations and older generations that didn't need to do that with technology specifically, is they run into like, they seem like small problems to like maybe you and me, or like maybe even someone that isn't like in the tech sphere sort of thing, but they're in that age bracket where they had to work things out on their own, is sometimes they'll run into really small issues, or the answer is right there in front of them, but they haven't experienced a stop in the flow of how things are going. In terms of like the like, say they're using like a Windows computer or like a Mac or something, it's like, oh, it stopped working, I don't know what to do, I don't know the process of figuring out what to do. So I think we're in this strange situation at the moment. I don't think it's going to get much better.
No.
Is where like, it's kind of thing like a dying art sort of a thing. Like someone that knows really ornate, fancy woodworking or something. There's only like 3 people left alive that know how to do it. It's not that extreme, but like it might get to that point at some point where like it's become too easy. Yes. And it sounds really mean or like boomery or something. I don't know. It sounds like a bit, I don't know, big-headed, but it's gotten to that point where like, I don't know what people are going to do in 50 years.
Dude, I don't know either, but I do agree with you on that. I don't put this from like a gatekeeping perspective or anything either. Like a lot of it has become too easy, and there's people who they'll have difficulty figuring out. Like I know even the way I kind of try to combat it a little bit is like with the videos and such I do, because I understand like, modding a game system for a lot of people, it's going to be a scary process. I've definitely been there. I've been, the little teenager shaking when my PSP was downgrading so I can get custom firmware installed. Like
it turns off and then it's like, oh my God, did I kill it? Oh no.
No. It turns off and then it turns back on and you get the blue screen of death. And then you have to hit the circle button and you just have to wait for it to restart and get into your default settings, like, setup. I come from that, but it's so I I understand people aren't going to know everything, of course. There's going to be people who they don't know, like, about safely ejecting a USB drive. They don't know about MBR versus GPT. That's fine. I've been there.
Definitely.
I didn't know about any of this. So I try and break that down almost like a spoon feed level almost. But there's, I guess for me, because I do the tech stuff a bit, there's a difference between following and doing something to understand it. And I run into a lot of people who will just follow, and when they hit just even like a small roadblock, they start freaking out. They're like, what do I do? I'm really nervous. I'm not sure what to do about this. Can you get into a call? Can you help me out here? What about this? So sometimes you gotta, a lot of times there's going to be times I don't entertain that necessarily, because I'm like, there were times I had to figure it out on my own. I had to sink a little bit in order to swim, and it's like, dude, this is fine. It's not going to like break the system or anything, mind you, but it's a little bit of that, and also sometimes kind of just questioning that as well too. It's like, okay, what do you like I'm trying to think of this like politely here, because I don't want to come off in like a super negative way, but it's essentially kind of asking like, okay, what do you think? Like somebody might ask like, hey, so I'm done with this whole process, do I remove the USB drive? And it's like, okay, think about it. Do you think you need the USB drive anymore? Yes or no?
So like two things with that is like, we're not like saying that, oh, everyone's silly or whatever. That's not the thing at all. Like for me, for example, like I always tell myself, like every time, it's like there's people out there that know more than me about other things.
Of course.
Everyone has their specialty, right? So like with me at the moment, I'm looking at like buying a house and everything, but I've never done that before. I don't know about like renovation and like repair and stuff to houses. So I'm outsourcing that. I'm asking other people. I'm doing the research and finding out exactly what I need to know to look out for and what to do. Like there's nothing wrong with asking for help, is what I'm saying. Sometimes people will just get overwhelmed, I think. And
of course.
Yeah, they'll get stuck. But yeah, sort of thing.
Yeah, I get that. I think the other thing I've run into is kind of like the time management as well too, because there's been and it can be all over the place, but I've seen, I guess in my example, I've seen a lot of people where they will ask a question, and it could be a really simple question, and it's answered in the documentation or a search away or in that same video, if they might be watching, and they will ask a question, but they won't move until they get a response, and they, really want a response to that. It's like, first of all, there's a chance you're not going to get a response. But secondly, if you waited 4 hours, 8 hours a day to get a response to this question here, you could have solved this in a lot less time by either doing a control F in the document or doing a Google search or continuing to watch that video. So let's say you're 15 minutes into a video, there's another 5 minutes left of it. If you just watched the last 5 minutes and got your video answered, boom, you would have had your answer within 5 minutes.
So for me, what I try and I guess instill in like technicians and stuff when I'm training them on like a board repair or like just general just device repair and stuff is, I'm not one of those people like managers or whatever where you walk them through every step. No. Like you sit there and you watch. And you're like, all right, I've started you on this. What do you think you need to do next? Do you need to disconnect this thing or this thing that's in the way, sort of a thing? Like coach them through it, but don't do it for them.
Yes.
And that's the way I learned as well. And I'm really glad that I learned that way, is because it gives you problem solving skills, and it gives you like, it makes you take perspective on the issue that you're trying to handle. And I think that works through out everything in your life. If you're dealing with taxes or something, if you're dealing with, I don't know, buying a car, fixing your car, or it doesn't have to do anything repair even. It's just like just doing certain things, dealing with certain situations. I think problem solving skills and I guess attention span in a way. Like I think attention spans have gotten shorter. I've noticed my attention span is like dramatically shorter than what it was when I was like
Dude, mine
a
too.
teenager or whatever. Yeah, like the internet's kind of ruined our brains, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, because I didn't grow up with the internet, so I had to figure out everything myself. Like,
Yep.
I could maybe go to the library or something, but that's like an hour drive away. So like
Mm-hmm.
maybe once a month you could look something up.
I was gonna ask, do you ever do the thing where it's like you go to the library and you're like looking up your stuff and you have like a notebook and you're writing these things down and then you go home?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, definitely.
At one point I had a broken computer and no internet at home, so I was doing that.
Yeah. Or basically you just I probably can't swear, but like you mess around and find out kind of a thing.
Yes.
Like that's how I learned like with modding and like repair and stuff. There's like certain like hand skills, motor skills that you need to learn to make it seem easier to other people, but like make it easier for yourself. So like just get your hands dirty with it. Don't be scared. Like whenever I'm trying something new, or if I'm like fixing something, or like I don't know, chopping something up like console or something just to make it look cool or whatever. I just think of it as sort of like a monetary issue now that I'm adult. It's just like, all right, this thing cost me this much. How much work do I have to do to replace it? It's not that much work. Like if it's an old console or something for like $20, then like, what am I scared of? I can just get another one. I'm a big boy now. I can do that.
I get that. Yeah.
So like, yeah, I guess what I'm rambling on about here is, don't be scared to just try it. Like, what's the worst gonna happen? Like, obviously don't go messing around with like mains wiring and stuff. You might burn your house down. But like, if you're like just trying to mod an old console that you pulled out of the back of the cupboard, you weren't using it anyway. Like, what's stopping you? Just take off the worry if you can, and just have fun. That's the best way to learn things, is just by messing around with things.
I can agree with that. Yeah, just be slow, be careful with it, be gentle, but have fun. Yeah, that's been really helpful. I'll say this too, even if we're talking about things quite literally bigger than console modding, because you were talking about like, hey, you didn't know about like house purchasing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
For me, I talked about this like in my last episode a little bit, but YouTube University has been really big for me, not just with, any kind of technical stuff, but in terms of like appliance repair. Like there's been last year and this year, there's been things that I've been fixing around the house that for me, and I kind of do the cost basis on that as well too. It's like, I myself by nature, I'm not a very handy person. And when I do handy DIY stuff, I'll tell you this, I don't get a intrinsic sense of excitement or a rush from it. I get the thing of, it's done and I didn't have to pay anyone else. Awesome. I only paid $20 in parts. I didn't have to pay $400 to get this fixed and have someone out here. That's how I feel. If I modify a system, if I build a computer, if I fix up, a piece of tech for someone, I do get excited from that. I do get a sense of joy. So that's where my love is. So what I'm saying is all this stuff, like the appliance stuff, when I take things apart, I don't get enjoyment from working on a dishwasher or a dryer, or like recently my freezer drain was all like clogged up and stuff, and I haven't been able to find a new one anywhere, so I kind of just had to take it apart, clean it up, and do a few other things in the freezer as well too. But that's one of those situations where I didn't know anything about it. All I knew is I would go and I'd go in my kitchen and there'd be water underneath the freezer. And several Google searches, I think I figured this out. I didn't even ask anyone, funny enough, but like Google searches, YouTube searches, figuring out the model of the fridge, seeing what was out there, just looking around, doing my research and all that, I was able to do it. And I was able to finally, it even got to the point I wanted to replace this part, the problematic part, but because I couldn't find it, I just had to go with cleaning it out and doing the best I could there.
Yeah.
And even if it's temporary, at least that's the best I can do right now. So I've been happy with that. But it's funny because I was telling a friend about some of this today, and she was saying, wow, you're really handy. And I was like, to be honest, I'm not handy. I just do all this because I had so many little and big issues around the house that were breaking, and I was like, if I have to call someone for this every single time, it's going to be a few hundred here, several hundred there, like could be upwards of 1,000 here. I'm like, I'm just going to look it up. I'm going to get some visuals, photos, videos. I'm going to look it up. And if it's something that I feel like I can do, I'm going to do it. But if it's something way too impossible, I'm not going to do it. One spoiler on that, I will say, is like one thing I can't do if I ever have to like paint the outside of a house. I'm not doing it. I'm paying someone else because I am horrible with heights. So that's one of those things. It's like, even if people say, hey, it's super easy to do, I cannot do that.
Yeah. Well, I think like it's like you get enjoyment out of different things in life. Like you can get enjoyment out of the process, or you can get enjoyment out of the product or the end result. Yeah. And learning how to fix your dishwasher or something, that's like, I guess like handiness out of necessity.
Yes. It's
not necessarily something you go out of your way to do. But like modding a console or like fixing a console or doing something like that, that's enjoyable and stuff. Like, yeah, there's this thing that kind of goes around in the repair industry a little bit, and like someone told me when I very first started that like, if you do something you love for a job, you'll hate it. So like, yeah, in terms of like, I never got to that point, but like I can see where some people can get to that. Like people that fix stuff like fridges and things all day or whatever, they don't want to go home and fix their own fridge. They'll just go buy another one. Like, it's kind of bad, but in a way, some things that I owned or own, like, I will not really be that interested in fixing. I'll just replace it because I know I can fix it, but I just don't want to. Yeah. I'd rather outsource it. Like, yeah. What is your time worth?
You want to come, like, you're going to go out to work and you're going to work on, you're going to get your enjoyment and your pay for fixing things for others. But when you come home, you want your stuff to work. You don't want to come home and do more work on your own property.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sort of split in both realms with that, is because I really enjoy repair stuff. Like, I've done it for like more than 10 years as a job, and it's really fun. You can really flex your brain a bit and think of solutions to really strange problems. But when it comes to your own stuff, it's just like, I just want it to work. Just make it janky and work. Like, I'm the one dealing with it. I'll be fine. Like I've had to fix my own washing machine and stuff before, and that was just because the warranty ran out on it. I didn't want to have to buy a new washing machine. They're like expensive.
Oh, heck no.
Yeah, and I did get enjoyment out of that because the solution that I found to it was really funny. Like, it was literally just oxidation on one connector. Like, it had everything replaced on it once, like the board and everything replaced, and then it failed again straight away because it was in like a wet area. Like, in Australia, like, houses aren't airtight or anything like that are in the US, and like my laundry room is actually not in my house, or it wasn't in my house, so like it was exposed to just outside moisture all the time. And it was just literally just oxidation on one connector, and that was the problem. It was like, that's so funny. Like, yeah, this saved me, using a wire brush saved me about $700.
There you go. And I'll tell you this, I feel like even if I was rich, I'm like, hey, dude, $700, that's a lot right there. I can take a wire brush to this.
Yeah, rich people don't get rich by giving away money. That's the thing. So, if you want to look at it that way.
Oh man, yeah. That's cool though. It's nice when you're. I actually do kind of want to lift that from you, where you were saying that there's some kind of enjoyment there, because I guess it's fair to say I don't enjoy when I do that stuff around the house. I really don't enjoy the process, but hey, I'll be honest, I am enjoying using the stuff in the end. Like when the dryer's working, hey, that's nice. When the freezer is not leaking everywhere, definitely nice. When the dishwasher is working and like heating properly, that's really nice. So I get the enjoyment from usage. I will say though, we are the weirdos when it comes to console mods and stuff, who like, and even like electronic repair, who like enjoy the process and the journey of getting there.
You like the pain.
I guess so, because let's be real. Most people are just like, I don't want to go through all that. I just want to have my system, plug it in, turn it on, and it's done.
I think when you talk about it like that, like there's solutions to everything in that case too. Like that's why pre-modded systems exist.
Absolutely. Like,
yeah, there's a thing for everyone, and I don't think you should be afraid to do either way, I guess. Like, yeah. It's heaps of fun. Like I like modifying stuff, like even just like like just customizing things in a certain way, like just aesthetically.
Heck yeah.
Like I'm working on a moment dyeing plastic, like dyeing a console
Okay.
instead of painting it. Yeah. So I've just been waiting for the weather to be good to be able to do that, but hopefully that should turn out really well. I've seen other people dye plastic before, and it seems to work really well, as opposed to painting. Because I used to do the whole like paint my Xbox like a silver spray paint, kind of blue LEDs, burn your retinas out sort of thing.
Oh yeah, the blue LEDs on a
yeah.
fat system especially, they hurt to look at.
Yeah. Like that kind of mid 2000s aesthetic, I guess.
Yep.
Like a little bit janky, a little bit cool. But yeah. But as I've matured with things, I think I'm looking more towards classy looking like aesthetic mods to consoles and stuff. I think everyone goes through their blue LED phase.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And then there's even a part of it too. It kind of comes back to, when you think about like all of the research and development that went into something, I'm just like, maybe these engineers were onto something here, because I kind of enjoy the little stealth factor of it. I'm like, I will get a system like looking really pretty and all that, but I kind of like the stock look at times as well too, because then it's a nice little surprise. Like people will be like, oh yeah, it's just just an Xbox there, for example. It's like no, but you turn it on and look what's on the TV, and then it blows their minds. Like I really like that.
It's like with a car scene, like you have sleeper builds and stuff.
Yeah.
So like it looks like some old granny's car, but really it's like 1,000 brake horsepower or something.
Yeah.
I like that too, and like they spend a lot of money designing this stuff, even from like a technical aspect and just from a visual aspect. There's rare cases where like it's just ugly.
I will say, I did bring up the space toilet, like the Atari Jaguar CD. It looks like a space toilet.
Or like some people don't like the look of the PS5. I think it looks alright. It does look a bit like a big Dracula's cape kind of thing, but some people don't like that. They like the trimmed look, so they get like the aftermarket plates and stuff for it. And
that can certainly happen as well too. I know I'm one of the people. Hey, I have a PS5. I don't like how it looks.
they're kind of unweirdly in a way. Like they're just big.
Yeah, both the new systems, actually all three of them technically I haven't been a fan of. I think the PS5 is ugly, the Xbox Series X looks like a fridge, and then the Series S just looks like kind of an awkward Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah, it does kind of, and like maybe a Lego product or something. The same with the Xbox One S as well. Like it's got those little holes on it and stuff. So like I think it kind of it's fascinating that it kind of follows fast food building design. Like McDonald's used to be real colorful back then. Like consoles were real colorful. Like, think of the Nintendo 64. What a weird shape.
They were fantastic, quite literally.
Yeah. Like what a weird shape for a product to be. Like it doesn't need. There's no ergonomic sense to this. It's actually probably not ergonomic, especially when you look at the controller. But it's fun. And then McDonald's back then was fun. Like all wacky looking, hamburger seats and stuff, and they even had Nintendo 64s in McDonald's for a while.
There you go.
Yeah, and then it kind of got to this corporate kind of looking deal, black building, and then the consoles started going that way too. Like, I think the longest holdout was maybe the 360. I'm trying to think. The PS3 got a bit boring.
The PS3 didn't have that much customization. I mean, it had like some custom like builds of it and like custom themed like systems. But I'm thinking the Wii, I mean, it had different colors, and the 360, it had different colors, but it also had interchangeable faceplates. But then it ended up losing that when it went to the Slim.
Yeah. But even the Slim, like just the design overall was still a bit angular. Like it looked like a console. It had a cool shape.
Yes.
And then the VCR box came around and ruined it for everyone.
Yeah.
Just sports all day. Sports.
TV.
Yeah, TV and sports.
Yes.
That's all you need.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they've actually kind of circled back to the original, like, always online.
They did the always
stuff.
online stuff, but they took away the TV and sports because you only have one HDMI port now. I will say I'm not sure if you ran into this because this might tickle your inner repairman, but I've talked with several people. They're like, "Oh, I love working on broken Xbox One systems because when the HDMI is busted, guess what? You just remove the old you remove the old HDMI out." And then you remove the working HDMI in and you just swap it to the out. So you don't even have to buy another port. You already have one. And then you just tell the customer, okay, you can't plug in a pass-through device. They're like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't even use that. I've never used it. Like, it's kind of useless in a way. Maybe if you're like, you channel surf, but
yeah.
I have not had a TV, like watching like broadcast TV or anything in like since like 2010.
I have an HD antenna in my living room, and I'll tell you the times it gets used is when family is visiting, and because they're set in their ways. They like to channel surf, and the dogs. Whenever we leave the house, we turn it on for the dogs.
Yeah, definitely. And also, people think you're home, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Microsoft kind of clued on that no one's actually using it. They definitely have the data on that, but I think
there used to
they
be,
strayed a little bit. Yeah.
Like I was gonna say, there used to be the snap feature where you could quite literally snap your screen, so you could have like TV media on one side and then like your game on the other side, and you can swap them in and out. I want to say, and I actually like that feature, but they end up removing that, unfortunately. So yeah, that was the only use I kind of made of it, and then they patched that out, and then I was like, well, I don't subscribe to cable. I've actually thinking about it, funny enough with the way things are working, I never even owned a cable box. Like we always just went like straight coax where I was at here. So I was like, oh, I can't even make use of that.
Yeah. Like I think picture-in-picture sort of stuff was a thing for a while on TVs, but now it's not a thing anymore. Like even here in Japan, where TV's massive, like people love watching TV. I don't get it. Like my TV has 4 tuners in it, right? So you can record 4 channels at once. It's just crazy. But the downside is you have to pay for broadcast TV here. Otherwise, it has a big message on the screen that says you have to pay for this. You can't watch it. So I don't actually get to use it. But picture-in-picture stuff is sort of not trendy anymore. I guess streaming kind of killed that with like DRM and stuff. But yeah, like I guess you have to have 2 screens now if you want to do that. I used to have a multi-monitor set up and watch YouTube on one screen and game on the other, but since I've downscaled to just like using a laptop on a dock and just a screen, I'm actually quite enjoying just one screen. It's less distracting.
I got you. It depends on what I'm doing. I'll say, like, for my main desktop setup and such, I have multiple screens for not only just like the productivity and enjoyment and such, but also work. But if I'm just like really wanting to focus on something, like, one screen is fine.
Yeah, what I used to do when I had 3 monitors was I'd turn off the outside ones and just focus on the middle one. And then after that, I switched over to ultra wide, and that was cool. And then I was actually going to get ultra wide again, but I read the listing wrong on Amazon. I bought the wrong monitor, and so I just ended up with a normal like 16:9 screen. And like I'm really enjoying just going back to grassroots with it, sort of a thing. Especially with content production. Man, dealing with like a 21:9 screen when you're trying to edit video is just so annoying. Or when you're trying to watch it on YouTube, because it's all 16:9 mostly. Yeah, just dealing with that is just And when you get into multi-monitor stuff and weird, sometimes old games and stuff, they don't scale properly on like your center monitor or whatever. Not even trying to use like ultra wide hacks or anything, just trying to use the game because your mouse cursor can go outside the boundary of the game and stuff.
I've run into that a fair share of times. I think with the ultra wide monitor though, I decided not to go with one of those. I've thought about it before, and some friends, they've like seen my stuff, they're like, why don't you just go with an ultra wide? And I'm like, well, it seems anecdotally, the people I've seen who go to ultra wides, they get them, they love them, they use them, And then a few years later, they end up going to multiple monitors again. And when I ask about it, they're just like, yeah, it was cool. Or like, it's really cool to demo. If you have everything set up and configured properly, it's really cool to demo and show someone. But then when I would talk to people, they'd be like, yeah, no, in actual like reality, like real day-to-day use, I just kept running into little hiccups and issues and bugs and little glitches and just little configurations that kept just being annoying showstoppers. So I just said, monitor upgrade time, I'm going back to 2 or 3 monitors. That I don't need an ultra wide. I tried it, I'm good.
The biggest problem I had with ultra wide was compartmentalization with what you're doing. Like, multi-monitors are great, especially in Windows. Windows is made for this, so you can just like drag a window across, let it go, and just like full screen on that screen, full screen on this screen. But with multi-monitors, like, Windows Snap feature doesn't. Some people have like finessed it and got it to work well. I could never get it to work properly for me, even in Windows 11, where apparently it's better. You just end up with kind of janky. Even in ultra wide, you just can't. You don't have that physical separation, so it makes productivity a little bit harder, in my opinion. Ultra wide, that is.
Yeah, and I can see that.
Yeah, like, you don't see ultra wides that often in like corporate offices and stuff. They just have 3 monitors.
Yeah,
it's better. You can turn that one off when you're not using it. You can turn it around to show someone, or you can like just have your things separately, sort of a thing.
Well, it's also when it comes down to it too, I feel like it's also cheaper because it's going to be more affordable most of the time to get multiple monitors, and then you could get either 1 additional one or 5 additional ones, whichever ones you want to do. If one is having an issue, you can swap it out pretty easily. So for a corporate setting, I get that, because I had to run into that with mine when I upgraded my monitors several years ago. One of my monitors had a little bit of a scuff on it, and it had a few dead pixels. And I did try, to run it, but after like 3 weeks, I was like, okay, it's not getting any better. It's still staying there. I have 2 others to compare it to, so I know it's a fault of this. So I was able to just take that one, package it up, go in, swap it out, because it was within a month, thankfully. But it's just easier to move like that.
Especially with ultra wides too, the panel quality is terrible. Like,
really?
Every ultra wide I've ever, apart from like the really expensive ones, but all the ones that most people are looking at getting are like, the Acer Predators and stuff, like the lower. They're still expensive, but they're sort of like the starting level. Like, they're just like I can't remember the model. It's a specific LG panel that they mostly use, and like, it's IPS. It has like weird like a glowing effect sometimes, especially on dark screens, because they're usually curved screens as well. You can get flat ones, but most of the ones I've ever used are all been curved.
Yes.
And you have like weird artifacts and stuff with that, like just with the backlight mostly. And just the panel quality in general. Like, I've got it's just a no-name brand one, like one of those white labeled things, and it's just a flat 16:9 monitor, and I've had no issues with it, and it was cheap. It was like $120 Australian or something, so like not much. That's delivered as well. So I think in US it's like $60.
Yeah,
brand new. But and it's like a gaming monitor and stuff. But because it's a flat panel, it's smaller. So like I think it's Linus Tech Tips brings it up a lot when they talk about really big screens. Is like, they're all a single piece of glass, and any defects and stuff, you can't avoid them. You can't cut them out. So with big ultra wides and stuff, you can run into weird issues with like that. Yeah. But if anyone listening and they're like, oh, I love my ultra wide, it's perfect. It's like that's great. But I could never get one that worked well for me. The only reason I went with ultra wide was because it was free, because I pulled it out of e-waste.
Oh, nice. So hey, you cannot beat free.
Yeah, freemium.
Exactly. Yeah. So I did want to ask you something here, where typically I like to discuss this on here, but I also ask my guests as well too. But I'm not sure if you get much time with this, because I know you do have some more time and such, but in regards to kind of the game here becomes actually like repairing, modding, and all that times. But
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
aside from that, is there anything that you're actually playing right now that you're enjoying?
At the moment, I just finished the game. Is it Still Wakes the Deep?
Haven't heard of it
It's.
actually.
Let me just double check that name. It's got a weird name. 1 second.
I'm
It's
checking as well.
this.
Still Wakes the Deep.
It's like
Oh, I've seen the cover for
yeah.
this actually. Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's such an interesting game. I'm not a big like novel or visual novel fan kind of thing where like
I love them.
you follow a story. This one, I went into it completely blind. I thought this was gonna be like guns out and stuff like that. I don't want to spoil the story, but it's not really that. It's more of a story, but it's like I guess living in or playing a really good horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're the protagonist, and the voice acting's really good. It's set in the 70s in I think Scotland or something. So sometimes the words and things, accent stuff is a little bit difficult to understand. So you have to leave subtitles on because they have funny words for stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like being in a movie, but you're in the movie, and it's like all this weird stuff happens, and like if you play it with headphones or in surround sound, it's so good. But it's kind of like more of a story than a game. But yeah, it's kind of spooky. I love it.
I'm looking at it right now. I saw one screenshot that reminded me of something, and I see it's developed by the Chinese Room, so I looked them up, and now it makes sense to me because it was reminding me of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and they developed that and released it back in 2015. And I'm like, okay, I never finished. I never finished it, but it was one of those games that was not nearly as intense, it seems, as this one here, but just you walk around, you experience a story, just like Dear Esther, which I'm seeing they also developed that, and I love Dear Esther.
So the story has great interaction between all the characters in it.
Okay.
And you yourself have a backstory in it. It feeds you it a little bit as you go, the same way a movie would. And it's so much fun, especially if you're into horror stuff and like a little bit of jump scares and things. But just that creeping rising water level kind of feeling of a horror movie, that style where it's just like things start off normal,
Yeah.
and then they get weird, and then they get weirder, and then it gets kind of more weirder, and it's just rising tide of just I wouldn't say anxiety because like some people might not be into that, but like sort of like how it would probably play out in real life for you as the person. It's first person as well, which I like. So yeah, you should definitely check it out. It's a great game.
Gotcha.
A few hours, I think. Yeah.
No, I actually really want to now. I'm looking it up. There is a physical copy of it that released as well too, which makes me happy. But it's in a little bit short supply, so I'll have to see about that. However, no, this is actually thank you. You actually introduced me to a game that I really want to play now.
Oh, I'm glad.
That's awesome. Yeah. Has there aside from this, has there been anything else you've been playing?
I've been messing around with Fallout 4 again since the new update and stuff came out, and I really enjoyed the show, so that kind of got me back into it.
Fair.
And yeah, like apart from that, because I've been kind of busy lately, like I've been playing that, and like just go back to like your sort of favorites you have that you'd like to just mess around with. Like I really enjoy the game Spin Tires, like Mud Runner and Snow Runner and all the expansions for that, like all the additions to that. Have you ever played those games?
I have not. I've seen them. I know what you're talking about, but I've never played them myself.
They're kind of like switch your brain off. Just like it's if you're not familiar with it, it's like a truck simulator kind of thing, except it's off road. Yeah,
okay,
it's
cool.
actually quite fun, and it's good for multiplayer as well. And then other things like 7 Days to Die. That's a great multiplayer game, even though it doesn't look too great. It's really fun. I like survival games.
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah. No, that is okay. Yeah, I'm still getting over Still Wakes the Deep, so I'm excited. I want to pick that up now.
Yeah. If you go in blind, it's the best, in my opinion. It's the best adventure. I've had in a game in a while.
I think I will go in almost blind. I'm probably gonna like fire up a trailer for it, which I haven't seen yet, and like show my girlfriend and be all like, "Hey, would this be something that you're interested in playing together, watching? Because if so, I'll get it. If not, all good." But I think she'll be into it.
Yeah. I think someone I didn't watch the trailer, but I sent it to someone else, and they reckon the trailer wasn't too great. So don't judge it entirely off the trailer. From what I've been told, the trailer doesn't represent the game as well.
Okay.
Or one of the trailers, I don't know. I avoid trailers with movies and games and stuff because I feel like they give away too much of the story. But
that's fair.
Have at it.
All
See
right.
how you go.
Cool. No, I can say at least on my side here, I end up finishing. Well, I've still been playing Ring Fit Adventure on the Switch, where I've been talking about that game here for years, but I just end up finishing it again because like once you like kind of when you go through the game like 3 times, then you can like keep going through the levels and stuff, but then you're able to do it much more expedited, thankfully. So that still keeps me mostly in shape, and that's been fun. I end up finishing a game that I bought digitally. It was a few years ago on Switch called Bury Me My Love, where it's interesting. Have you heard of it before?
I haven't. Is it like an indie game or something?
It is, yeah. So essentially it is you're a guy in there, you are communicating with your significant other as she is a refugee who is trying to escape and get to safety. But it's interesting because it's a very visual novel type game. So there's not any action that's happening on screen or anything, but the entire game pretty much takes place on WhatsApp. Like if you're playing it on the Switch, and it was really a joy to play it on there as well too, you can even rotate the screen. Then I was playing it in the portable mode, so you can quite literally just like, God, since I was playing on like the OLED Switch, I was just like playing through it like I was holding like a giant phablet.
That's crazy. That's such an interesting concept for a game.
Yeah,
like it's like a real life situation. I wonder if it's based on a true story.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was. It's one of those games that you do have to play through a few times. It's kind of like choose your own adventure. So, the first time you play it, that's the ending that you get. But that is not the end all be all ending. So there's good endings. Hopefully there's bad endings as well too, I'm sure. I got one that wasn't like super great, but it's one of those games I was admittedly kind of needing to finish something. And then I was like, I've started this game like at least twice, haven't finished it. I know it's not going to be difficult just because it's going to be reading here and making some decisions. So I was able to finish that up, thankfully. Really the only complaint I have about it is it's not like the game style or anything, because I thought that aesthetic was interesting. It's that for as minimal as the game is, because it's pretty much just imagine you're chatting with someone on WhatsApp and that's the game. The game ended up crashing for me before several times on Switch.
Oh no.
And I'm like, what is it doing that's so intensive? Like, why is this game crashing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like one of those situations where it fake crashes. There's a game.
No. The app, not the whole console, but the app actually crashed and like generated like a error and all that. And I'm like, okay. And then of course that takes you, that takes you out of the out of everything there, where you're just like, I was enjoying it here, and now I have to go back in, and my progress hasn't been saved for 20 minutes. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Oh yes, that is what happened, man.
Speaking of like bad endings to games, another game I finished recently, I forgot, was Metro Exodus.
I never played that one. I actually played the first 2 Metro games though. You shouted that out earlier, and funny enough, I had a console that I was testing here, and I tested it with Metro 2033.
Yeah. So in my opinion, the first Metro game is a bit too janky as far as like controls and stuff go, the original one.
Sure.
But 2033, I went into that game blind, and it was awesome. Like, same with Dishonored. I went into Dishonored blind as well because I just had a poster of it for some reason. I'm like, this game looks like fun. I'm going to get that. But yeah, speaking of bad endings, I've just finished Metro Exodus, and I got the bad ending.
Okay.
And I don't know if I should spoil or not. There's multiple endings to this game, I'm pretty sure. So like, yeah, but yeah, bad ending for me, the protagonist.
Okay.
And I felt so bad afterwards. I was like, man, I died. It's like, maybe I need to play it again and try and do the good one. But like, yeah,
I get that.
Bit of a time sink, I think.
Yeah. I mean, aside from that, how was it compared to the others? Because I personally, so I don't remember too much from Metro 2033, but I remember I enjoyed it, finished it, and then I remember I really liked Metro Last Light. I didn't think the story gripped me in as much, but the gameplay enhancements I really liked, and then I never played Exodus.
Yeah. So that was the same for me. So like, yeah, I got the names a bit confused. So 2033, the first one, that's the one with the janky controls on PC and Xbox, I'm pretty sure. Like, it's just not as fun to play for me. I don't know. Maybe there's mods for it. 2033 Last Light was the one that I really got into. Like, it's one of those games where like you pick it up just to mess around with to see what it's like, and then you blink and it's like, oh, I just finished the game kind of thing. Like a real fun adventure. Same with Dishonored, like I've mentioned a few times.
Yeah.
With Exodus, it's kind of like it's a good game. It's sort of trying to keep up the wind sort of thing with the game before it. Because in my opinion, Last Light was like masterpiece level kind of storytelling
I loved
and
it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Exodus is very similar to that. Maybe it's because it's like with movies, you have the sequel issue or the sequel syndrome where the one after the really good one, you know what the story is, you know what's going on, but yeah, it maybe tries too hard. I wouldn't say that too much with Exodus. It's just that I knew what to expect with it, so maybe I didn't enjoy it as much because I didn't go in blind with it. I knew what the story is about and stuff, but it's still a really good game, and you've still got the whole choose your own adventure thing, and the part I really like is like the sneaking around and stuff. You can go around situations in different ways, sort of a thing.
That's awesome.
Like my favorite weapon in the game is the one that's like you can make your own ammunition for it and stuff. It's like a little ball bearing gun or something. I love weapons like that in games. Like in Dishonored, it was like the crossbow or something, like sneaky, quiet, and you can like hide around stuff and get the bad guys and things. But yeah, it was a fun ride too, and the story in that is also really good.
That's awesome.
I just have a soft spot for Last Light.
I'm reading and doing some rereading on this as well too, and I just remember the thing that gripped me about Metro 2033, or at least it put it on my radar, was I just remember when it came out, because I mean this came out at the time, it was 2010 I'm seeing, so there was a flood of first-person shooters, but not only the game looked incredibly good, and it was really like you needed a powerhouse of a computer to run it, it still looked great on consoles as well, but the thing with it that stuck out was it was a single player first person shooter game. It didn't have any DLC. It didn't have a multiplayer component. It didn't even have co-op, and it was scoring incredibly high ratings, like 9.5, 10 out of 10. So and it was just this game that came out from, it was developed by a Ukrainian studio, so it just kind of came out of the blue. I remember that was the big thing that really put it on my radar. And then a few years later, I played it and I thought it was great. And then Last Light, that one I also played on 360. I didn't play. I think that one does have DLC for it, but I never.
Yes.
I feel like it does. It didn't have multiplayer, but I feel like it did have some DLC, and I never played the DLC.
I think they're just extra missions.
Okay.
Kind of like different studio, but like I think it's a different studio.
Sure.
Dishonored has a similar thing. Like it's single player first, old school. Just we put all the effort into the single player, and we made some extra mission packs and stuff.
And I really like that. Yeah.
I think I've played the extra missions in both of them. because Exodus, I'm pretty sure, has extra missions as well. It's one of those games where it blends in the DLC really well. In my opinion, anyway. It kind of blends it in really well. You don't even notice you're playing DLC. Like, it just feels like you're just doing extra stuff in the game. Yeah. Just extra side quests sort of a thing. But yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. Heck yeah, that's awesome. The other game I was gonna say we'd actually played was literally right before we hopped on here, and I swear it's not because I made a love note to it or anything like several months ago, but recently I actually ended up setting up a RGH for my girlfriend. She had one, if you can believe it or not. She actually had one years ago. Loved the thing. It got stolen, so she hasn't had one for a while. But we were planning to build one out for her, and then we finally ended up doing this again. But this time around, like, it took almost a year. The thing was in pieces. Like, I cleaned it up. It was ready to go. It just we finally made it happen a few days ago, thankfully. But what happened was we were making like a project of it where I was kind of walking her through it. I did the hardware side of it. She did like the software side with some of my help on there. But then she was messing around with it right before I came onto this, and she was scrolling through the games and such that she has. And the one game that I've never mentioned this to her, but the one game she loaded up was I made a game with zombies in it. Have you played that? Do you know about that game?
I've heard of it. I've never played it.
It's fantastic. It is a Xbox. It was like an Xbox 360, like Xbox Live indie game.
Arcade.
Yeah, one of the indie arcade games. It was $1. There's an entire song about it that is in the game, talking about how the game is only $1 and he hopes you buy it. To my understanding, because you could get, it was similar to regular Xbox Live Arcade where you could download the full game as a trial, and then if you want to, you could unlock it. But from what I recall, I don't remember any differences. Maybe it was something like you can't save your score, but I don't really think there was any differences between the paid and the free version aside from that. So back in the day, I ended up paying the $1 just kind of as a tip because I loved it so much. But it's great. She like immediately got into it, but then she had to pass the controller to me because she was like, she doesn't do the twin stick shooter type thing, and I don't really do it either, but her thumbs were hurting from it.
Yeah. That was like back in the heyday of like game development, app development and stuff, where it was like it wasn't all about microtransactions. Yeah. I might see if I can get it somehow.
Dude, you can get it very easily. It is available on the modern Xboxes. It's available on Microsoft Store. It's available on Steam, and it's available on all those platforms for free.
Oh, for free. I was going to say, is it still $1?
No. Which the thing is, I haven't played the remastered version, so I do not know if the song has changed at all. Because that's like he talks about like he has like X and A references in there, and he says again, it's like it's only $1, and I hope you buy it. So that's the only thing, the only downside with the new ones. If the song hasn't changed, then it's no longer accurate. But hey, it works. It's a game I recommend anybody at least try, especially now because, like, dude, it's on everything and it's free.
That's awesome. I'm gonna try it out now.
Heck yeah. Anyways, with that, I think it'd be a good time to call it here. So
yeah, it's almost 2 hours.
yes, yeah, and I'm getting a little tired here, so I got to wrap this up and such. But Liam, dude, it's been a pleasure talking with you, having you on here. It's been awesome.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on, too.
Of course. Yeah, man. At the end of these episodes, I do like to pick a keyword or key phrase so we can check the comments and see who made it to the end. But since you're the guest, I'm going to throw that your way. So what keyword or key phrase do you think people should use in their comments so we know that they made it to the end of this episode?
Oh, I gotta find something on my desk now to do it your style.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. You already know.
I got so much crap. Desk.
Me too. Shh, it's fine.
Let's try keyboard. That's the first thing I can think of.
What was it?
Keyboard.
Keyboard? All right. Well,
Yeah.
you heard him. If you use the word keyboard in keyboard, excuse me, that's evidence that I'm tired right there.
Yeah.
But if you use the word keyboard in your comments on the video upload, we'll know that you've made it to the end of this episode.
Are you a keyboard warrior?
I'm thankfully not a keyboard warrior, but I do like my keyboards. I actually just I had to get another aside here. I had to find another keyboard for my girlfriend because she was running into issues with hers. So I ended up pulling this like kind of cheap. I got it years ago, but it was like a $40 like mechanical keyboard that has like bootleg like Cherry MX Blue switches on it. And she likes it. The thing is, she wasn't expecting it to be so loud, so she just started typing on it. She's like, "Uh-oh." I was like, "Yeah, no, you're gonna kind of feel like a clickety clack gamer here."
like a typewriter.
I love that. I love that. And then the funny thing is, like, my keyboard is a nice clacky one as well too. So there'll be people like if family is coming over, if there's other people, they might hear me type. First of all, they're kind of in disbelief, and then secondly, they're like, "Dude, that's so cool to hear that," because it just kind of sounds like machine gun fire at times.
Yeah, especially if you can type really fast.
Yeah, well, because of that, it was like years ago when I would type, I had friends who they thought that I was messing with them, like I was just slamming on the keyboard or something, and I'm like, no, I actually do type this fast. I'm not trying to show off or be obnoxious.
I love the sound of a good keyboard, but sometimes it can be a bit loud.
I love it. I love it, man. That's why I love those clickety clack switches.
Yeah, I used to have a Model M, IBM Model M keyboard.
Ooh,
Like
okay.
springs and stuff. Man, that thing was heavy. It hurt to type on, to be honest. Like my hands aren't the best. Like they get sore pretty easily from like just fixing stuff all the time.
Yeah,
like, man,
the
amount of force you have to put down on those keys is just makes your hand burn.
Because this one, the bottom M, you have to bottom it out, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had like sorry, but like I had like a friend of mine who he essentially, I think he grew up with a Model M and he used it kind of similar. So the problem is he typed on every single keyboard with a Model M, including like the soft membrane Dell keyboards that a university will get thousands of thousands of. So we're just like in like a lab, for example, and I'm typing just fine, and then he's just slamming on the keyboard.
Just like breaking the keys as
it sounded like it was gonna break, and I was like, "Dude, are you okay there?" He's like, "Oh no, I'm fine. I'm used to like bottoming out my keys and having like a heavier keyboard. Sorry."
A MacBook's worst nightmare, just like breaking all the keys off the keyboard.
Yup. I gotta, I know we're running a little over. I gotta tell this horrible story. I'm pretty sure the keyboard is fine, but one of my best friends, he has one of these small limb keyboards. That was the last one I touched, and it wasn't just because of this, but it was the last one I touched. Like he was showing me, and I was talking about. I commented about the weight of it. And, it was not only the heaviest keyboard I have held, but I was in the wrong for this one. I end up dropping it on the floor.
Yeah.
And he got mad, and I was like, "Oh, don't worry, the floor is fine." He's like, "No, I'm not worried about the floor. I know the floor is okay. I'm worried about the keyboard." I was like, "The keyboard's okay." He's like, "No, it's an old keyboard." I was like, "Oh, okay, my bad. I want to do something funny. I came off as a little bit of a dick. My apologies."
Man, I dropped mine on my foot once. It hurt.
That sounds really painful. I'm sorry. Those things are very heavy.
Yeah, like especially the older ones you get, they have like more steel in them or something.
Yep.
This one I had was from the 80s or whatever, or earlier one.
Yeah.
And it's solid. You could probably use it as a weapon. That's
why the point of my joke I was trying to make at the time was like, okay, your floor's gonna be okay, because it's like
like a Nokia.
Yeah, no, legitimately one of those things was like, if you drop a Model M, I'm not really concerned about the keyboard. I'm more concerned about the floor that it fell on, or like the foot that it fell on in your case.
Broken foot. Go to the emergency room. Be like, "Oh, what's wrong?" We're like, "Oh, I dropped my keyboard."
It's like, but you mean like this little membrane? Is like, no, it's like a brick.
They're pointing at their Dell keyboard that they use at the desk.
Exactly. Then you gotta like explain to like the nurse taking you in right there like what exactly a Model M is, and be like, I'm actually in very serious pain. Can we just not talk about this?
Be like, have you seen a trebuchet? It's like that, except keyboard.
Exactly.
Big.
Well, with that was our keyboard discussion. So hopefully you all can have a little bit of a keyboard discussion in the comments. But very last thing here, dude. Where can people find you online if they want to hear more from you?
So currently my handle is Slot1Gamer, but I'm changing maybe just YouTube to Liam's Electronics Lab. So you can find that under both at the moment. I think they're both searchable, but I can always comment down below. You can just find me in the comments, I guess.
Phenomenal. All right. Well, dude, Liam, it's been a pleasure having you on. It's been super fun.
Thanks for having me on. It's been so much fun.
Of course. Yeah. Anyways, that is about it for this episode, everyone. So, as I always say, thank you for listening and watching. And if you enjoyed this episode, a like would absolutely be appreciated. If you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well, too. But again, as I always say, this is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for listening and watching, everyone. And until next month.